From Kenan Stadium in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner, and joining me like he always does, following a Carolina football or basketball game, THI publisher Andrew Jones. And Andrew, we saw quite the football game today, Carolina pulling out a high-scoring victory over Wake Forest on that field right behind us, 59-53. AJ, there's only one place we can start with this one. I think everybody knows exactly what I'm about to say right now. Sam Howell was sensational today, 550 passing yards, 6 touchdowns. I mean, he single-handedly kind of led this team to victory, but just how good was Sam Howell today?
I covered Phillip Rivers.
Yep.
He was unbelievable. Mm-hmm. I covered Russell Wilson. I covered, the really good. Carolina's had a lot of really good run of quarterbacks in the 2000s, from Darian Duran on, Bryn Renner and
TJ
Yates and of course Marquise and Mitch and now Sam. And I mean, this was the most pristine.
Yeah.
And I saw Renner's 21 for 22 game, but given the competition and given what the game was all about, every throw Sam made today had to be a big throw because the defense chose to play Matador style there for most of the game.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of pressure on everything that Sam did, and yet if you just isolated your vision on him, you never would have known that he was playing under pressure. You never would have known that every time the ball was snapped to him, he had to make a play. He had to make plays to beat Florida State, and he nearly did it. He had to make plays to beat Virginia, and he nearly did it. Today, he did it.
Yeah.
He came back from the 21-point deficit. He was amazing, and what's really interesting is he was so damn good throwing the ball that Wake kind of just stopped.
Yeah.
They stopped dealing with the run. I don't know what Wake did differently. I'll have to go back and look at the film. Maybe Carolina just whipped them up front. I don't know. But Carolina ran the ball really well. He had 125 rushing yards in the fourth quarter. And I got to think that had they gotten to that point while running the ball well and Sam was having a more average day for him, which is still really good, maybe that fourth quarter wouldn't have happened the way it did.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just know that guy was unbelievable today. He set all kinds of Carolina records. And the thing that is most impressive, back to what I was alluding to a second ago, after the game, people are asking him, was this a legacy moment? Put into perspective what you did today. Even one question was about the stats. Nobody's ever done that here. Who's ever played here before? They've been playing football since 1888.
He wouldn't bite, would he?
I asked him, I said, Sam, I talked to basketball players who are red hot in the game, and you ask them afterward, were you feeling it? They say, yes, I was feeling it. I said, so can a quarterback be feeling it during the course of a game? He immediately went into the offense.
Yeah.
And I don't know, we'll see the PFF stats Sunday. He threw a lot of balls away.
Yeah, he did.
The one pick should have been a catch, and there should have been another 40 yards passing for him. This was about as, and then
to top it off.
There's so much. All these things are. It's like dripping into my into my consciousness. Oh yeah, he did this too. The third down run on the drive in which he ended up scoring was as big a play as there was today.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And then he scores in a 20-yard run. So 6 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. The cape came on. Superman, all that kind of stuff. We can sit here and heap all kinds of praise on him, and it wouldn't be overdoing it.
No, it really wouldn't. It was a sensational performance from Sam Howell today. One of the greatest quarterback performances I've ever, probably the greatest I've seen in person.
And before we get away from offense, Daz Newsome has not had the kind of year.
No, he hasn't.
That he expected, and a lot of other people expected, but he was incredible today. He was tough, he was fast, he was everything people thought he would be. Diami, another big game.
Yeah, he was tough.
They have guys that sometimes one of their position mates has such a big game that when they also have a great game, it gets a notice. Like Michael Carter, last few weeks no one's really noticed what he's done because Javante's been so amazing. And by the way, Javante ran for 100 yards again. Got a pancake block. If they still gave out helmet stickers, like
you'd be getting one
in the throwbacks, they gave them out back then.
He'd
get one for that pancake block, which never should have been reviewed. It was a football play. So, wow.
Yeah.
700. What did you say? 700.
700. I forgot the final stat now.
700
some yards or something crazy like that.
Well, it's 59, 53, 700 something yards.
A lot of yards. Yeah.
I actually tweeted out at one point. We'll get to the next part here in a second.
We promise.
I said, anybody remember the basketball game here against Wake Forest? They had a December game against Chris Paul and Wake Forest back in the 04-05 season, I think it was, and Carolina lost in triple overtime, 119-114. So I tweeted out, anybody remember that game? I put the score in there, And it generated more feedback on Twitter
More buzz.
than anything else I put out there. And it's not because of that game, but so much that this game was the football version of that.
Exactly, and the bell tower going off right behind us is right on cue. But AJ, we got to move on to the next segment, next thing, if you want to call it, defensively. I think we have to touch on the defense in some kind of capacity. Not a great performance, to say the least, from the defense. I don't want to come out and say it was horrible, but it wasn't good. It was bad. It was a defensive performance which Wake Forest at times did what they wanted to. Not a lot of pressure on Sam Hartman. He had a lot of time back there to just kind of pick and choose where he tossed the rock, and that's why Wake Forest ended up scoring 53 points. But in the end, you got two veteran guys in Patrice Renee and Chaz Surratt kind of making game-defining plays in the end. So while it wasn't a great performance by the defense, they did find a way at the end to make some plays and kind of get Carolina over the line.
We're not going to offend anybody by saying the defense was horrible today.
They were.
They know they were. They're going to watch film Sunday, and the film ain't going to lie. Okay?
Nope, it doesn't lie.
However, as bad as the defense was for nearly 3 quarters, they just flipped the switch.
They did, yeah.
And after Wake scored 24 unanswered points to take a 21-point lead, the offense started getting it going because they were kind of stagnant during that period, and the defense just kind of flipped the switch, and they actually went 20 plays in a row, in a stretch of 20 plays, allowing just 20 yards.
Yeah.
And that sack by Surratt, the PBU by Renee, you could see what that gave the whole team a big lift. Like, hey, got to stop. We got to stop with the guy making a play. Wake kind of helped Carolina some during that stretch, but that was Carolina making a play, and then one of the older guys making a play, and then Chaz getting the sack. It just kind of looked like, oh, this is what they thought they were going to be more of in the preseason, and they were that way during that stretch, and it was just enough to win the game. But sometimes it's a lot harder to step up and get really good defensively for a stretch. Usually things go the other way around. And they did it with a lot of young guys in the field. I'm looking out there, and Wake has the ball inside the 5-yard line, and Clyde Pinder and Miles Murphy run out in the field to go play down a tackle.
Yeah.
Kevin Hester. How about Tony Grimes?
Yeah, Tony Grimes, yeah.
We were walking over here to do the video. Tony Grimes looked like a college football player today.
He shouldn't be.
Even like in between snaps, you just looked down and you said, okay, this is a little different than what we saw 2 months ago. So when Max said, get him in here, and Bateman also said it too, he's got to get practice reps, he's got to feel the part, he's got to become the part, and we saw him take that step forward a little bit more today. Conley playing nickel. Remember, he struggled at BC, kind of lost some of his spot in the rotation. I wouldn't say lost his spot in the rotation, but wasn't playing as much.
Wasn't playing as much, yeah.
Max said after the game, look, put him out there.
Yeah.
Someone's got to make the plays. Put him out there. And they did, but it was the older guys that made those 2 plays.
Yeah, it was.
Those were huge. And it's really good for this program to go into an open week with the older guys making plays, but the young guys were on the field. So if you're going to look for ways to generate spirit, that's about as spirit lifting as you can get for a group that has not been very good this year.
Absolutely. And just look ahead for a second before we wrap it up. Carolina, two wins on the bounce now. Got a bye week ahead. Then they play Notre Dame, big time showdown. I mean, obviously the vibe's going to feel a lot better. A lot more momentum now for Carolina going into this bye week than if they would have lost this game in the fashion that they did, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But AJ, where do you think this team goes from now?
They just got to get better.
Yep. That's the message, yeah.
Rewind back to the last 6-7 videos. Just got to get better.
I think Max said it today too in his press conference. Kind of alluded to it. Yeah.
I mean, you don't give up 600-something yards and 53 points on defense, even with that good stretch, and think, we feel pretty good now. You got to win. You got out of there. Sam had an amazing performance. The offense did what the offense does. But until this defense just becomes average, when they know going into game, hey, we got a good shot of being average today. Games like they have coming up, it's very difficult to forecast a victory in a game like that. But they have exams coming up. They have an open date. It's a perfect time for an open date, especially with all these young kids getting on the field. You don't want them to take exams and prepare for Notre Dame in the same week. That's a lot for them. So this kind of comes up on the schedule at a good time. And they got to go into it just, okay, we feel good about the win. They said earlier in the week that when a lot of kids played last week against Duke, they had a really good week of practice. They just need to have a really good week of practice again and just get better. I wouldn't even think about Notre Dame this week. Just get better. The offense still has to get better too. They kind of mess around every once in a while when they get inside the 30. Did that a little bit today, and they had their little stagnant stretch. But they're probably going to get Brian Anderson back, I would think,
That's
for
big,
Notre
yeah,
Dame.
that's big time.
So they get a little bit healthier. We think they'll probably get Kyler McMichael back, so they get one of their starting corners back. Maybe Bo Corrales is back for, I don't know.
That could be huge,
We'll have to wait and see about that. But 2 in a row, Max said all week long the mission was to connect a really well-played, big, important win with another one. Well, I don't think you could say this was well-played because of what the defense did, but it was well-played enough, and they got the W, and they got through this 4-game stretch against rivals, and they could exhale.
Yep.
They played for 7 straight weeks. There was a time a few
crazy,
months ago when no one thought that would happen. They can exhale, take exams, feel pretty good about themselves because they are 6-2, and get better during the week of practice.
Yep. It wasn't easy, AJ. It wasn't pretty today, but Carolina coming out on top, 59-53 over the Demon Deacons in Kenan Stadium. That's going to do it for us. As always, guys, if you've enjoyed the video, be sure to like it. Be sure to share it. We'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.